There is a thing you have been calling laziness for years that is not actually laziness. The world has been watching you delay the work, miss the deadline, fill the hour with smaller things. The world is wrong about what it has been watching. Underneath the delay, there are 4 more tiers your nervous system has been running to keep something dangerous from happening. And the bottom one is older than this project, this dream, and this version of you. The checkpoint will tell you something. Most viewers in this room have spent their whole adult life not letting themselves hear. Procrastination is not laziness. It is an iceberg. The part the world sees, the missed deadline, the unopened document, the email reply that never gets sent, the hour that disappeared into smaller tasks, is the visible tip of it. Underneath that tip, in cold water, no manager or partner has ever been invited into. There are 4 more tiers. Each tier was added to the one above it because the original room you grew up in had a price for being measured. And the iceberg is what your nervous system built to keep you from ever being measured again. The checkpoint did not invent this metaphor for drama. The checkpoint built it because almost every viewer who arrives at this line carrying the chronic shame of "I keep putting it off" is looking at the same 5-tier structure inside their own life and calling it a discipline problem. The checkpoint is going to descend through it with you, slowly, 1 tier at a time, until you can finally see the whole column. Now, pay attention to this. By the end of this inspection, you will recognize yourself on at least 3 of the 5 tiers. You will probably recognize yourself on all 5. You will know which tiers the productivity advice fixes and which tiers it cannot touch. You will know why the new system, the new app, the new morning routine has not held. And you will have one inventory sentence to take in your own handwriting tonight. So the iceberg starts becoming visible to you instead of running you through another week of "I will start tomorrow." Tier 1, the visible tip. This is what every coworker, partner, and parent has been seeing in you for years. The document that does not get opened. The email reply that never gets sent. The call you have been about to make for 9 days. The tab that opens before the work starts. The small cleanup that has become the only thing that gets done. The hour you blocked off that disappeared into something smaller and quieter. The checkpoint will tell you something the room will never tell you. The behaviors on tier 1 are not the procrastination. They are only the visible part of a structure most viewers have never been allowed to look beneath. They became your reputation in your own mind, the thing you were working on, the thing you needed to get back to, the thing you would tell yourself you were starting tomorrow, every tomorrow, for years. Most viewers spend years on tier 1 and quietly assume that is the whole iceberg. The checkpoint is here to tell you it is not. The visible tip of an iceberg is, on average, 1/10 of the structure. Everything that actually determines where the iceberg drifts, what it weighs, what it can survive, lives below the waterline. Tier 2, just below the surface. This is the layer you have been narrating to yourself for years. And the narration is the disguise the iceberg needs in order to keep operating. There are 4 sentences that sit on this tier. There are others, but these are the 4 most viewers will recognize on themselves immediately. I work better under pressure. I am just lazy. I need to be in the right mood. I will start tomorrow. The checkpoint will inspect the first of these because it is the most flattering disguise the iceberg wears. I work better under pressure. The sentence sounds like self-knowledge. It is more often the most efficient way the iceberg has of disguising the deeper question. When did you decide that the only acceptable version of starting was a version that left you no time to fail well? The cost of Tier 2 is the slow erasure of the difference between effective work and adrenaline-narrowed survival. Every "I work better under pressure" sentence is a confession that you have only allowed yourself to start the work in conditions where the work cannot be your real attempt at it. The deadline becomes the alibi. The rush becomes the explanation if it is not your best. The checkpoint does not say to drop the deadlines. The checkpoint says, when one of those 4 sentences arrives in your mouth before you have honestly inspected what is underneath the avoidance, the iceberg just spoke, not you. Tier 3, below the waterline. This is where the body lives. And the body has been doing things for years that you never gave it conscious permission to do. There are 4 behaviors at this tier, and almost no viewer was ever told they were procrastination. The gut clench when you see the file name in the folder. The somatic pull away from the chair the moment you sit down to begin. The small dopamine ritual that always precedes trying. The snack, the scroll, the tidying of a space that did not need to be tidied. The shallow shortened breath the moment the document opens. The checkpoint will inspect the first one of these because most viewers do not realize they have been doing it for years. The gut clench at the file name. You open the folder. Before you have moved the cursor toward the file, your stomach has already tightened. You did not consciously decide to do this. The body learned it before you had vocabulary for it. The checkpoint will tell you what the gut clench actually is. It is the early warning system of an iceberg that learned very young that opening this file would expose you to a verdict you could not yet survive. So your nervous system built a sensor that runs every time the file is in front of you, no matter how safe the assignment actually is now. The cost of Tier 3 is the chronic low-grade dread that almost every viewer in this room has been carrying without being able to explain. You have been doing the unpaid emotional labor of avoiding a verdict you have not even consciously named for years in the background before every single attempt to begin. By the time you actually sit down to do the thing, the body that ran all of that has nothing left for the work itself. The energy was already spent on the avoidance. Tier 4, deep water. This is where the self begins to dissolve. And this is the tier most viewers are least willing to look at. There are 4 behaviors at this tier, and they are the ones that frighten viewers when the names are said out loud. Quietly believing the dream is still possible only as long as it is not tested. Choosing the unfinished version of yourself over the finished but imperfect one. Protecting an identity that has never been measured. Treating I could have. If I tried as a more comfortable home than I tried. And this is what happened. The checkpoint will inspect the third of these. Protecting an identity that has never been measured. There is a version of you in your own head, the one that is going to write the book, start the company, get the body back, make the painting, leave the relationship, be the parent. That version has been alive in your mind for years. It has never met a single judge. Most viewers reach for the kind names. I am still figuring it out. I am cautious. I am perfecting it. The checkpoint reverses the framing. You are not perfecting it. You are an iceberg whose surface has been calibrated for so many years to keeping the version of you that has not yet been measured exactly the way it is, untested, therefore intact. The cost of tier 4 is the slow disappearance of the version of you that came into the world willing to be measured, willing to be wrong, willing to find out. By the time most viewers reach this tier on themselves, they have been protecting an unmeasured self for so long that they no longer remember what it felt like to actually want a verdict at all. Here is the real issue. Tier 5, the bottom of the iceberg. There is only one behavior at this tier because there is only one original moment. The checkpoint will tell you what it is, gently, because most viewers have spent their adult life not naming this, and there is a reason. Somewhere very early, usually long before you had words for it, you learned that being measured was dangerous, and the only safe self was the self that had not yet been seen. The conditions varied by household. In some rooms, it was the report card. In some rooms, it was the recital. In some rooms, it was the comparison to the sibling, the cousin, the version of the parent at your age. In some rooms, the verdict was loud and obvious. In many, it was a single moment of disappointment in someone's face that the small body never forgot. The contract you signed in that room was not signed in language. It was signed in your nervous system. The contract said one sentence: I am only the person I think I am as long as the work has not been finished. That one sentence is the cargo at the bottom of the iceberg. That is what every I will start tomorrow. Every half-open document, every 9-day-old email has been quietly paying interest on. The checkpoint will tell you the most important thing in this entire video. The 4 tiers above this one, tier 1 through tier 4, are not separate problems. They are the 4 payment installments your nervous system has been making every single day for years, on a contract that says finishing the thing would force a verdict it does not yet trust the world to deliver. The thing you did not start today. I work better under pressure, you whispered this morning. The body clench when you open the folder. The version of you in the mirror that has never met a judge. Each one is a payment on the same original loan, and the loan has been generating interest the entire time. So now you have descended through the entire iceberg. The checkpoint will say what almost no other video on procrastination will say out loud. Procrastination is not 5 separate problems requiring 5 separate fixes. It is one column. The tip is the missed deadline. The bottom is the original ruling. The middle 3 tiers are the architecture that keeps the original ruling buried, where you cannot question it. That is why every previous attempt to stop procrastinating has not worked. The new app, the new morning routine, the Pomodoro timer, the accountability buddy. Each one chipped ice off the visible tip while leaving the bottom of the iceberg untouched. The tip grows back overnight because the contract underneath has not been read. The checkpoint does not say you need to confront your childhood tonight. That is a different inspection. The checkpoint says, once you can see the column, every "I will start tomorrow" begins to look different. Not because you stopped saying it, because you can finally see what the not starting is protecting. I have lived inside every tier of this iceberg. I have called the avoidance discipline. I have called the body clench preference. I have protected an unmeasured version of myself for so long that I forgot the version was still untested. For years, I called the whole thing perfectionism. The checkpoint did not let that conclusion pass, not even on himself. There was a long stretch when the checkpoint was not yet the checkpoint. I protected a project so completely from being finished that the protecting itself became the life I ended up living. The cost of those years cannot be described in full inside one video. What can be said is this: the contract at the bottom of my iceberg was the same one. Most viewers in this room are still paying interest on. The checkpoint built this station so that someone eventually would be told what the contract said before they paid for it for another decade. Here is the practice. It is small. It will feel uncomfortable the first time. The checkpoint is not going to ask you to finish the thing tonight. That is not the inspection. The checkpoint is going to ask you to make the iceberg visible to yourself for the first time, in your own handwriting, before the next room of avoidance can swallow it. Pick up a piece of paper or open a note on your phone before you go to sleep tonight. Pick the one task from today that you avoided, where the avoidance felt heavier than the task should have been. Write one sentence at the top of the page. The sentence is, "The thing I did not do today was the tip of something." Underneath it was blank. Then write 3 answers underneath. Use these 3 prompts to find them. 1. What would I have to find out about myself if I actually finished the thing today? 2. What identity in my own head would no longer be safe if the work got tested by the world? And which tier of the iceberg is that identity living in? 3. Whose voice from the original room said, "You should have done better"? The third prompt is the one most viewers will resist. It is also the one that cracks the iceberg. The voice you have been quietly trying not to disappoint by never finishing the thing is almost never the voice of the boss or the client. It is usually the voice of someone who is no longer in the room and may no longer be alive. The thing I did not do today was the tip of something. Underneath it was the fear that the version of me who could have done it brilliantly will not survive being measured. The thing I did not do today was the tip of something. Underneath it was the same gut clench I have felt since the first report card I was afraid to bring home. The thing I did not do today was the tip of something. Underneath it was a contract I never read because no one ever told me I was allowed to. That is the inventory. Most viewers find that the moment the third answer is written down, the next attempt at the work feels different in the body. Not easy, different. The body finally has a witness for the verdict it has been hiding from. Once that witness exists on paper, you start being able to choose in real time whether this particular avoidance is one you want to keep paying for or one you are finally ready to renegotiate. If you do not yet have a place to take this iceberg inventory, give it somewhere quiet to land. Drift Inward is a journal that uses AI to read what you write and reflect the pattern back to you in your own words. So the same avoidance, the same I will start tomorrow, the same protected dream finally has somewhere to be seen for what it actually is. Sometimes the iceberg starts melting the moment the third entry, in a row in your own handwriting, names the same voice from the original room, and the contract underneath finally has a name above the waterline. That is the practice, the ruling. You were never procrastinating on the work. You were protecting an old self from the day the work was no longer hypothetical. The visible tip is the missed deadline everyone has been seeing for years. The bottom is a contract that says you are only the person you think you are as long as the work has not been finished. The four tiers in between are the architecture that has kept that contract buried where you cannot question it. You do not have to finish the thing tonight. You do not have to redesign your life tomorrow. You do not have to become a different kind of person. You have to make the iceberg visible tonight in your own handwriting, where the daylight self can read it tomorrow. The checkpoint does not let the protection pass another week when the contract has never been read in daylight. Pick the next moment your hand hovers over a file you have been protecting for months. Look at the tip. Then descend to the tier the avoidance is actually paying. Write the sentence down before the next "I will start tomorrow" can swallow it. That is how the iceberg finally starts melting. Not by chipping the tip, but by finally seeing the column. The checkpoint will be at the line when you bring it through.